That's how a bully operates, though, right? That's how a bully operates, right? Totally. Yeah.
That's the worst of thoughts you get together to observe the session.
30? All right. Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole for February 4th. We're not used to this big a crowd, so welcome everyone. We're glad to have you here with us. If anybody needs a chair, there are some chairs just on the other side of the wall, and it will be broadcast out there should you need to be there. The first item on our agenda then is the adoption of the agenda, and I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Don't fight over it.
I'll move that we adopt the agenda.
Thank you. All in favor? It's carried. Previous minutes, entertain a motion for the previous minutes of January 20th. Councillor Flowers?
I'll move to adopt the minutes of January 20th Cal meeting.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Our delegation tonight is Alliance Fifth Avenue site, and would like to welcome two gentlemen who are going to present. John Copplethorne. I hope I got that right, John. Michelle, are you doing the introduction? Okay.
So good evening, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, and Council. I'm pleased to introduce tonight's delegation from the Cochrane Lions Club. Joining us are John Copplethorne, the volunteer advisor to the Lions Club, and Johnny, partner and architect at GGA Architecture. The Lions Club has been an integral part of our community since 1964, contributing significantly through their various programs and events. And today they will provide an update on their history and the impact of their work and share their vision for the future development of the lands of the Fifth Avenue site. I'll pass it over.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle, and for that intro. So yes, my name is John Copplethorne. I'm a rancher, I'm an auctioneer, and a little background on myself as well is in 1985 I started volunteering with the Calgary Stampede. In 1997 I was elected to the board of directors of the Calgary Stampede. From 97 to 2010 I served as a director on the board, and I retired in 2010 and was honored with the distinguished honor of being an honorary life director. So at that time, I retired and started to work with the Cochrane Lions Club at that time. Hopefully I had a wealth of knowledge that I thought I could help out the club with in terms of their rodeo programming and overall park utilization down there. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I've enjoyed it immensely. And part of that planning that we did and some counseling that I did with the Lions Club is strategic planning and what the vision of the park and what the vision of the club is going to look like in years to come. So a couple years ago, we got into some strategic planning, long-term strategic planning, and with all awareness that in July of this year, our lease will expire that we have with the town of Cochrane on that park and our partnership that we have with the town. So at that time, we wanted to really drill down and try and find out what can we do on the park, what's our position going to be in future years, how is the highest and best use of that park going to be utilized. So we got to doing some planning. We referred to the tri-site document as well, use that as a founding document for our planning. We've came up with some ideas. We've came up with a business plan to support these ideas. We've hired the services of Give Gauge that Johnny Hare will be jumping in here shortly to also give us some look onto the future. So at that time, let's go to a story. Every story has a great beginning, ladies and gentlemen, and 60 years ago, 1964, the Cochrane Lions Club began, 35 chartered members. At that time, amazingly, 950 people in the town. 950 people. So, where are we today, 60 years later? 60 years later, well, we're still around, but now we're inside of the town. We're just bordering the downtown area. We're still on the 15 acres, but we're surrounded by 40,000 people. It's an iconic piece of land. It's a land that drives a lot of impact economically and public spirit. And I just want to take a moment, and we got a lot of guests here, and I want to recognize a milestone. 60 years, ladies and gentlemen, that the town of Cochrane and the Lions Club have formed a partnership on these lands. 60 years. I'd like to congratulate and thank the town for those 60 years of stewardship and partnership and trust in the Lions Club. I would also like to thank the Lions Club and all the partners that go along with the Lions Club for that 60 years of working together to build community spirit and make these lands the iconic lands that they are, that drive community spirit, but they drive economic value as well. So thanks to each and every one of them. So over our strategic planning period, we looked at what are our guiding principles to move forward with this hopefully aggressive and futuristic looking plan. So we started with 4 guiding principles. So let's build a multifunctional, year-round, centrally located park for the community to enjoy. That is very key, ladies and gentlemen. What started out to be a piece of land on the outskirts of town is now downtown Cochrane. Location, location, location is critical. We've got all kinds of amenities right outside our door, but the key to this is being multifunctional and being year-round. This is a valuable piece of land. We recognize that. We want to utilize it to the highest and best abilities that we can. The second one is one that we just recently decided that we needed to improve on and be aggressive in this approach. So it's enter into an ongoing and long-term beautification of the land that would both be aesthetically pleasing and functional, providing organic, sound, site buffering measures. The park has really become stagnant in terms of beautification. We haven't really done a lot with the park in terms of making it eye-appealing, making it inviting to the public. It's a beautiful piece of land. It's got an iconic little hill on it. It's got all kinds of ability and all kinds of future, but we need to be more aggressive and we need to beautify this park soon. We need to make our interface between our neighbors more appealing. We need to make it more flexible, non-event time, where families can come and enjoy the park year-round. We need to have playgrounds, interactive facilities on that park. Let people come and go as they leisure. Let the families enjoy the Western culture and the experience that they can year-round, non-event and event times. The third one is one that's really come thrust upon us here lately, but it's one that we find that's very important. That's providing first-class facilities to Cochrane community support groups so that they can elevate their program. There are many, many community programs going on. Some incredible talented people that have some wonderful ideas about community support programs. Many of them are sitting in the crowd here today. We love partnering with those people, those events, and those community support groups. But they need a facility to have their events in. And we have found a way and work with these people so that they can put on their events year-round. And our last one is being the founding principle, and it will continue to be the founding principle, and it's the heartbeat of what we do each and every day as a Lions Club on this park. It's continued to be a gathering place that brings locals and visitors of all ages and cultures to celebrate and enrich a community spirit built on pride and respect. That will never change. Let's go to our facilities, ladies and gentlemen. Our programming is strong. Our programming and our alliances with other community groups is growing exponentially every year. We're quickly outgrowing our facilities. Our facilities really are our event center, our rodeo grounds, arena, our ball diamonds, and our Boys and Girls Club, and our outdoor spaces. As it comes to the banquet facility, or we call it the Community Event Center, it's the largest one in Cochrane. It can seat over 500 people. We have some smaller rooms that we can break it down, but it's growing and growing and growing in demand. And I'll give you an example. 24 months ago, 2 years ago, the facility was running at 20% utilization. In 2 years, 24 months, we've exceeded 80% utilization in that event center, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of event center programming, that's a sold-out building. When you talk about turnaround and being able to make the facility ready for the next event. So 2 years, we've seen a 60% increase. It's a building that is providing our needs, but it needs to be upgraded for expectations of users. We have the ability to draw in larger, more profitable third-party events. We need to upgrade. Our rodeo, our iconic Labor Day rodeo, held each and every year on the Labor Day. 4 years ago, we drew about 8,000 people. Last year in 2024, we did over 18,000 people in that 4 days. A testament to the growing programming and the elevated of our programming that we're doing and the popularity of what we're doing. We consider 5,000 people on those grounds to be almost our limit, and we did that this year. We've had to expand into the North Ball Diamond with some of our youth programs, our kids' playground zones, our concessions are moving down into the North Ball Diamond grounds. So it's growing and it's very popular. The Boys and Girls Club, what a wonderful facility. That is active every day, 365 days a year. It's a tremendous space where kids get to be kids. They can do it in a safe place. They can shoot a little hoop. They can play some ball hockey. It's a great place for that transition from parents leaving their work to getting home, place for the kids to hang out until that happens. They're busting at the seams. They've got a facility that's too small, it's outdated, it needs to grow. And it's such an important part of our program. So ladies and gentlemen, we're committed to this community and we want to grow with it. But here's a cool deal. The economic impact of what that park and what the Lions Club provides to this community is immense. I'm going to kick right off at the top here, and it's not on this sheet, but over the year, every year, the Cochrane Lions Club, in cash donations to the community to support other groups, other not-for-profit community support groups, every year, $150,000 to $200,000 they cut in checks annually. This is something that they don't jump up on top of a roof and yell this, and that's much to my dismay. I hate that. I wish they would. They need to be recognized for this. But they also do it in partnership with other community groups. They do a partnership with the Rotary Club, with the Breck's Campground. That also supplies another additional $100,000 annually through the proceeds out of that campground. In 2023, we commissioned a company to come and do an impact study on just the 4 days of the rodeo in 2023. So the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, and the Monday, only those 4 days. They studied the economic impact of those 4 days in Cochrane, and it was in excess of $850,000 impact to the community on those 4 days alone, ladies and gentlemen. And they also say that it has the potential to reach $5 million in those 4 days. How does that happen? Why is that potential so great? This impact study, for your reference as well, ladies and gentlemen of the council, it's going to be in your supplemental. It's about a 20-page document, the impact study, for your review later. Also, I'll have a breakdown of all the club community activities they do throughout the year as well. But they came back and said that it has the potential to be $5 million. One of the limiting factors is hotel space. That 50% of the people that came for those 4 days from afar that visited Cochrane to attend the rodeo stayed in families, friends, Airbnb, or other hotels throughout surrounding areas. Lost revenue, ladies and gentlemen, lost revenue. So we look at 4,000 volunteer hours annually committed into the community. What's the economic impact of that? My response to that is priceless, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime you get that many dedicated hours by all these wonderful people that are sitting here today, that is valuable. That turns into economic impact, but more importantly, it is about community spirit and community pride that's infectious, that brings people everywhere around the world to come and see. So, community event programming, I mentioned that and how popular it is. The Lions Club is now really endeavoring on reaching out and partnering with other community associations to build bigger, more impactful programming throughout the year. We have a whole host of people here, but I'll give you an example. In 2024 rodeo season, for last year's rodeo, the Lions Club, along with SHAPS, the Stockman's Memorial Foundation, the Chamber of Commerce, the Boys and Girls Club, the Rotary, the Tourism, many, many others, and I'm apologizing if I miss you, but they formed an alliance where they actually took the rodeo experience, the Western culture, out beyond the borders of the rodeo grounds for them 4 days. They had pancake breakfasts throughout the community. The SHAPS put on all kinds of educational programs in downtown Cochrane. We took the experience, we want to take it out to all parts of the community to engage, to educate, to enlighten, and make everyone's experience a whole lot better. We want to do that more and more each and every year. So we're gathering and bringing in all kinds of different community organizations to help us with that. So the small business support space, another key area. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs out there that are trying to get some individual events going, businesses going, karate clubs, churches actually are utilizing the event center. We have all kinds of other businesses. We have a butchery right down in the basement that he started out. So we're trying to be an incubator place for these people to start these businesses and grow and get out and get their own space. We do not want to be in the retail competitive business. Let me get that straight. We want to help foster and get people off and running. The last one is a real important one to us. It's one that we see all kinds of opportunity and lots of room for growth in there, and that's our recreation and our park space. We have a large amount of land there, relatively speaking. We feel it's underutilized. We can do a better job of using that recreation and park space for third-party venues. We can have farmers markets. We can have all kinds of expos. We can have outdoor festivals, all kinds of stuff that we can do throughout the year to more utilize that outside property more efficiently. So I'm going to wrap up on the impacts. When we go through that list of items, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not reaching and I'm not lying. And when we say that we can do over $1 million of either direct or indirect economic impact to this community off that land, and the Lions Club in association with other community organizations, that this land enables them to do, $1 million annually is, I think, a conservative number, ladies and gentlemen, and I think we have all kinds of room to grow, and I think we can reach that $5 million expectation soon. So through our strategic planning, we've come up with some ideas. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Johnny Hare from Gibbs Gage, a reputable organization and company out of Calgary that is a very visionary company that has some great ideas and some pictures that they'll show you. John?
That's a bit of a tough act to follow. Thanks, John, for the great intro. A little bit about myself. My name's Johnny Hare. I'm one of 6 partners at GGA, formerly known as Gibbs Gage Architects. We are a Western Canada focused and primary Calgary-based firm that has about 110 people. We've done about 80 master plans over our 42-year history, and recently had the experience of helping the Cochrane Ag Society with theirs, as well as some large master planning pieces in the city of Calgary with the Rivers District Master Plan and other elements like that. We also work as a multidisciplinary firm working on many different types of buildings, which we will bring that experience to this, where we're developing schools and post-secondary and event centers and recreation centers and all of those things. So we bring that level of experience to help the Lions Club create a vision of what could be. Closer to home, this place, I am a Cochrane area resident. 2 of my 4 kids go to Cochrane High. My cousin is a small business owner in the city or in the town, and my mom's part of the seniors arts group. So I fully understand the impact of spaces like this, and it's nice when we get to do work that is in your backyard. So with that, when the Lions Club came to us, we identified a few elements early on, and I do want to thank the planning department at the town of Cochrane. Michelle and Drew were very accommodating when we started to have some of these early meetings to chat about the opportunities here, and it's great to see a group that's willing to work with architects and people that are committed to the community. Some early things that we started to address is site connectivity. How this site can connect to its edges. Right now, it's kind of, a bit of, it actually has some pretty hard edges. It has some pretty tall fences on one side, and, in an area that is kind of left behind from a pool that once was, and how it connects into our public realm and what kind of public realm it can actually serve this community. And then when you look at the buildings, it's easy to see that this site has had 60 years of history, because it has kind of 60 years of history on the site. The Lions Club, to their credit, is leveraging that building that exists there, every square inch of that building, beyond its probable ever designed capacity. It was designed as a curling rink. And so the fact that they have been able to use it the way that they have is a true testament and credit to them. We started off early on making sure that we were aligned with the tri-site study that was done. And all of these development principles have been guiding us along the way. And a credit to the people that put these together, because I think it really speaks to the community nature of what this site wants to be and how it wants to tie into the other sites that are part of this. I don't need to list these all off. I'm sure you're all very familiar with them, but every single one of these development principles aligns with what the Lions Club want to achieve. Right now, the Lions Club site is 15 acres. The Lions Club itself is responsible for the old curling event center, the rodeo grounds, and that's the extent of what they're responsible for. The Boys and Girls Club have their own agreement on the site, and then the town of Cochrane is responsible for the remainder of the site, the 2 ball diamonds and the parking lot, elements like that. So when we started to look at this site, we really started to ask ourselves, at a very high level, what kind of vision can we start to create for this? Along 5th Avenue, as I said, there's a empty lot where the pool used to be. The parking lot is leveraged beyond what you could ever imagine it to be. Some days it's a basketball court and a field or a street hockey place, and other days it's a parking lot for overflow for the rodeo. We actually, you can see in one of the images there, we developed the Seton Recreation Center in South Calgary, and we saw how kids were leveraging these parking lots, so we actually put basketball hoops on the light standards so that people can use these parking lots for much more than they were ever designed for. But that edge along 5th Ave and where it meets at the 3-way stop, in speaking with the planning group, we recognize that that's a really prime area. It's an area where, a beautiful central plaza, a city gathering space, town gathering space, would be an incredible, marker for the site to help tie in and really give it the presence that it wants. You can see in the bottom corner that image of, you know, somebody running and then a pathway peeling off the edge of it. You could really envision that edge condition along there being something like this, where you have a pathway that meanders through the site and starts to connect the edges, as well as accommodating sports and play spaces for kids. So these elements start to define the site. And as you walk through, you have a connective tissue that begins to have a series of pathways. And if we start to remove some of those fences along Glenbrook Crescent and really start to bring down the edges of the site and make it much more public and inviting, where it can still host things like the rodeo. It can have maybe outdoor event spaces that are semi-permanent or permanent to invite, you know, those events that want to be there the other 361 days that it's not a rodeo. Really finding that opportunity to be that connective edge from the commercial into the park and beyond. When you start to define all of those edges and that movement, what it does start to do is it starts to create an area that could be developed into something new. And here you can see we've listed on there Lions Club community and boys and girls spaces. And the images are just really ideas of what could be. To have a building that is purpose-built for the conference spaces, the, you know, community support spaces, having flexibility within there for farmers markets, for events, for, you know, maybe universities that want to have a remote campus and host, you know, events there. And obviously taking everything that the Lions Club is doing, but giving it a proper space to do it. And along that lines, you have the Boys and Girls Club, which could help activate that space and maybe start to give them the space that they need and create a purpose-built Boys and Girls Club within the building itself. When you take all of those elements of what could be a community hub, play spaces, conference and event spaces, parks, activity, plaza, it really starts to activate and really push that community focus that the Lions Club have done for the last 60 years and put it at the forefront on this beautiful site that's really the heart of Cochrane. And that's where we are right now. It's really identifying opportunities and not necessarily saying it's going to be one building or two buildings or three buildings. It's too early for that. It's really about right now just creating a vision and having the commitment of the community behind it. So I'll kind of pass it on to John.
No, thank you, Johnny. So you can see how we're looking down the road, ladies and gentlemen, and all kinds of opportunity that lies in that 15 acres, that iconic piece of land. So basically what we're doing here today, ladies and gentlemen, why we're here tonight, and I appreciate the time that you're giving us, that we are, as the Lions Club, we are asking Council for a continued negotiation on a community partnership for another 50 years on the 15 acres of land. I'm going to ask the question, and I'm sure you're asking it, is why 50 years? And it's important. It's a very important number, because you saw in John's presentation that we have some facilities that need certainly upgrading to be expanded. We need all kinds of improvements to be made on the park. And we have a business plan that we can help share the burden with town if we can get this negotiated partnership put together. That we have a business plan that can help finance this. It's critical that we enter into a 50-year agreement, ladies and gentlemen, for that 15 acres of land, and it's critical that the Lions Club manages and maintains that 15 acres over the next 50 years if we can do this partnership. The reason why we need 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, is for basic business 101. We need that long airstrip for financing. If we got security, that's the key word here, ladies and gentlemen, security. If we get 50 years of security, we can go out and secure lines of credit for operational upgrades. We can get out and finance, enter into some financing agreements with some businesses that can help us finance, some lending institutions that can help finance these capital projects that we want to see grow and make this 15 acres bigger and better. We need that. We can also go out and get better grants. As a not-for-profit organization, we'd love to partner with the assets and all the abilities of the town as well on private and public partnerships, so we could go to different levels of government. When you got 50 years ahead of you, we have an opportunity to explain to these people that we can do a return on investment of this financing that they can give us. But there's other opportunities as well. One of the key opportunities is in sponsorship. If we get 50 years of time on that park, we can go out and secure agreements with large companies in terms of getting some naming rights on key assets on the park. These exclusive naming rights are very, very profitable, but they generally go for 10 to 15 years. These companies request that long a time. Have a look at the Scotiabank Center, the BMO Center. These are contracts that they love to go over 10, 12, 15 years. Very profitable. They come in annual checks, incremental increases for inflationary adjustments as well. That's mailbox money. That's a wonderful opportunity to help with all kinds of capital projects that we'd like to undertake. But we also, when you get 50 years, we can enter into some very, very in-depth and long-term planning. We can develop programs that go over 3, 5, 7 years. We can enter into agreements with some third-party companies that would bring festivals, bring farmers markets, bring all kinds of different activities that we can do year-round with this long-term planning that we're going to be there. These are all great revenue generators that can help us get to that $5 million goal of direct economic impact into the community. So ladies and gentlemen, there's so many opportunities that lie within this park, but we need that security. We need that stable outlook down the road. We want to continue to grow together to meet our community needs. We want to create an accessible, diverse offering for all citizens of Cochrane for generations to come. Let's help foster the economic growth of Cochrane. Let's celebrate our Western heritage. Let's promote our community spirit, supported events, and volunteerism. We can do that. We just need a long runway. We need 50 years. If we do 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, imagine from 1964 to 2075, if we are committed to this land as this is the highest and best use for that 15 acres, that's what we need to focus on, is 50 more years. Because in 50 years, we can be looked back upon by all the community and say, you know what? The Lions Club, the town of Cochrane, the council members at that time, they were visionaries. And I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that at all. So ladies and gentlemen, the Lions Legacy Park, a space for all, a legacy for generations. It's a community partnership from 1964 to 2075, 110 years. It's incredible. Chair, I pass it over to you for questions.
Gentlemen, thank you for your presentation. I'll turn to my council colleagues. Start with Mayor Janot.
Yeah, thank you, John, and Johnny, for your presentation tonight. I'm afraid to move my hand above here because every time I've done that in your presence, John, you've sold me something. Appreciate your auctioneer skills and your presentation skills tonight. But I guess if I was bidding at an auction tonight on what you're selling us, I think you'd have a sold. I really appreciate, let me start it with, as a boy who's grown up in Cochrane and always had that rodeo site and that central park in our community, as you've outlined on the edge at one point, but now in the center. It's been one of those things that's remained the same. One of the questions I have from your presentation is, and I think you made it pretty clear, and it's one of the things that I think we need to really be careful with this land. is that it's not just about a rodeo. I like that you've outlined the economic impact that the rodeo brings to Cochrane. Obviously, it's our roots and our heritage and the ranching. We're the central part of Alberta's ranching history right here. I don't need to tell you that. But can you maybe expand on not just a rodeo?
Yes, yeah, thanks for the question, Mayor. I'm going to start off by, you saw in our guiding principles that we want to be a multifunctional year-round facility. And we want to be a lot of things to all aspects of the community. But I'm going to kind of fold back into my Calgary Stampede time that we have a rodeo. It's an iconic rodeo. It's a 4-day rodeo that brings 20,000 people and more for that 4 days. It brings eyes, it brings attention, it brings awareness, it brings people. We have people from all over the world attending. Every year, every day at that rodeo, we ask, where are you from? And we have them from Hungary, we have them from Japan, we have them from Mexico, Australia. It's an iconic 4 days that brings people to us. It brings awareness, it brings eyeballs, it brings a place that we can showcase our town and our people and our facilities. But this is a valuable piece of land and it has to be utilized year round. We have the ball diamonds. We want to continue and utilize them even more. Have them flexible so that we can turn those ball diamonds into a larger open space for festivals or whatever. We need our event center to be bigger, to be better, to be to a level where we can start to bring in higher level premium events. The Boys and Girls Club. So you're right, Mayor, that we need to absolutely focus on year-round multifunctional programming. It's key. The Stampede does it. They've built a big business around that. That's how you become a bigger economic driver, is every day of every week of every year you're doing something on the park that keeps the community engaged and businesses coming to do business with us.
Yeah, appreciate the answer. I think that's, for me, that's going to be key in going forward with whatever the town or whatever we decide with the 15 acres. It has to be community, not just about one singular activity. I'm hearing you loud and clear on that one. I just want to be clear, you're not asking for a dollar amount today, you're asking for a partnership.
We're asking for a partnership, Mayor. We're asking for council to give the blessing. We've done some preliminary negotiations with administration. We floated the balloon. There seems to be some awareness and some opportunity that we see we can seize. We'd like your blessing for us to keep going on with this negotiation. If you think it's a good idea, we don't want to waste anybody's time. If there's a better idea that you have or something that we need to be aware of, let's get it out in the open. But at this point, we would like to get into more detailed negotiations. Our contract, our lease comes up in July of this year. We'd like to have it finalized. What a wonderful opportunity for this year's rodeo if we can bust out 50 years of continued legacy on these hallowed lands, steep in history.
You are a salesman.
I'm honest, man, I'm honest. That's what I am.
Last question, then maybe a few comments if I may. You mentioned the BMO Center on the Stampede grounds. Obviously the city and Stampede Board have done a massive new building there. I'm trying to wrap my head around your site and the way I think you've described how this could be developed and become more inviting, and there's some architectural designs and things that we could change. And I think that's interesting. But a BMO Center in Cochrane, I mean, it's something that the Tri-Site plan had kind of identified as an upgrade. Is that where you're heading? Is that where I'm picking up?
All options are on the table, sir. Sorry.
Cochrane-like, not maybe.
Yeah. A lot of times when we make these kind of presentations and I present this vision of the Lions Club and the rodeo grounds or the Legacy Park now, I'm somewhat hesitant to use comparisons between the Calgary Stampede and this rodeo grounds. Some people like it, some people don't. But I think there's some similarities that we can draw on and some experiences that are already tried, tested, and true about the Stampede model. And maybe I'll just take a brief moment. Not-for-profits, which the Lions Club is, not-for-profits can make profits. They have to make profits to fulfill their aspirations and dreams to support the community. Not-for-profits can cut checks, as the Lions Club does, but also not-for-profits can take profits and reinvest it back into their business to grow that business. That's much the Stampede model. They don't go around cutting large amounts of checks into the community. They take a lot of that profit, grow their business, grow their programming, grow their buildings bigger, bring more people, and indirectly impact the economy to the tune of $434 million annually, indirectly. That's how the Stampede wants to make Calgary and Southern Alberta better. Can this model work here? Probably on a smaller level. So a BMO center could be a new and improved event center. Could have that same kind of flair that brings more dollars, brings more people, bigger events, more eyeballs on the town. All obviously helps tourism. So there's all kinds of different business methods that we can use to do this. And so to your point, a BMO center could be a possibility. It's all on the table. Economic times dictates how that will progress through the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Supplemental question to that would be, do you have access to the expertise that the Stampede Board used to get to where they are to tap into for Lions Club?
Absolutely, Mayor. Thanks for that question, because through my connections with the Calgary Stampede, I still have many good friends that have now retired, and they're like me. They still have the passion and they still have the want, and I've reached out to these people. One individual, actually, he was the CEO of the Calgary Stampede, Vern Kimball. He actually renegotiated the second 100-year lease between Calgary Stampede and the City of Calgary. And he's expressed his interest that he would love to sit down and work with us if we want to negotiate a 50-year lease. We have another gentleman that would absolutely love to work on governance. He was one of the people that was the instrumental volunteer coordinators of the 1988 Olympics. Immense amount of talent that we have the ability to draw resources from and help us through this, and help administration see a way through to hopefully finalize this negotiation, that we can get this 50-year deal done.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll stop monopolizing the floor and just maybe stop with a few comments. And I really can visualize what you guys are up to. I think for the longest time, we as a community have grappled with this issue, I'll call it. Should the rodeo be in our downtown? Should it not be? What should be there? We've done the tri-site plan. I think that was excellent work. I'm glad to see that you're building up upon that. But I really see this as a way to activate something that has been a part of our community from, well, 60 years, but even beyond. And again, I think it's important to me that it's not just a rodeo. I think that is super important, don't get me wrong, but I think it needs to be all. So that would need to factor in. The one thing that really caught my attention was, and I'm going to call it giving the Lions a chance. And that, I think our current way that we've been doing business, by having a 3-year, 5-year, a short-term lease, while it has been comfortable maybe from an administrative side or from the town side, because it keeps pushing our decision of, do we want a rodeo in the middle of our town or don't we? And it keeps shoving it down the road without ever addressing it. I hope this is an opportunity that this council can take to actually take hold of that and put our foot down and say, this is what we want to have in the middle of our community. And so I think a long-term lease makes sense. And that is giving, for all the reasons that have been discussed tonight, you the opportunity to take some of those barriers out of the way and do something that actually we haven't been able to do or won't be able to do as an administration yet. And that is build some of these other buildings that we need. And we've already identified them in the tri-site plan. I see this as a way of the Lions Club working on the community's behalf to get us what we need quicker than what we can do it ourselves. And at the same time activate the downtown park I love the idea of keeping it green, open, welcoming, a place for everyone. And a couple other things, like we're very good, and I don't mean this as a Cochrane thing, I mean this as a societal thing, very good at dozing things down, tearing things down, paving over, and putting in new things. You do a little bit of traveling, the things that actually would draw to people to Cochrane is the historic downtown. I love the idea of having our rodeo grounds and our history and our roots preserved in the middle of our community. I think that amongst or above everything else that you've suggested tonight, to me, that is the thing that gets me most interested, is that we can really, and as you've said, John, very well, I think, is be visionary in this case and give the Lions a chance. And by that, I'm gonna put a little asterisk beside that. And that is with conditions, that there are clear milestones that I think that should be achievable, but also that line up with everything that you've got in your presentation, that gives our greater community the clarity on and confidence that this isn't just gonna sit here the way it is right now forever for 50 years. Actually, you're gonna follow through with what you said. And I don't have any inclination or suspicion that that won't happen, but I think we need, on the business side of things, to be able to have clear off-ramps that say, and I'm just gonna pick numbers, if in 5 years this hasn't happened, then we're gonna revisit this lease. In 10 years, if there's not a foundation or these things haven't been achieved, then we'll revisit the lease. But if those benchmarks are being met and the progress is being made and the vision is becoming a reality, I think this is a no-brainer for me. I'll stop there. This is a big deal. Love to talk about this for a long time. Thank you for your presentation. And thank you to the Lions Club and everyone in the gallery tonight. Obviously, this is the heart of our community here.
We're done? Okay. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I love this topic. It's well overdue, I feel. It's something that we were talking about when I ran for election in 2017. That's how long this particular thing has been bubbling, the long-term nature of it. A question and a comment, John. My comment is that a few years back, this council group did a strategic planning session where we did a thought experiment. We were asked to come up with a community or some place anywhere in the world that had some redeeming quality we'd like to see copied in Cochrane. And my answer was Calgary and the Calgary Stampede, the way that they did something unbelievably novel there, I thought, and that was keeping their roots and their central entertainment district in the center of the city instead of shipping it off to the outskirts, which you see so often in other places. And this one piece of land is exactly where I see that should be happening in Cochrane, and I've always felt very strongly that this should remain the central core feature of this land that we're talking about in Cochrane. And so my blessing is firm. I think you and your group are the perfect people to do just that, to advance the site forward, and you absolutely have my blessing for it. My question is simply, how do you respond to the very popular opinion that we hear all the time that the better and best use is actually to, do we have enough land on this site, the 15 acres, to support rodeos ongoing and outdoor events, and why shouldn't we ship that to the outskirts of the community where we can have more land, more parking, et cetera, and develop this site? That's the sort of counter opinion I hear all the time that I disagree with. But
well, I appreciate that, and that's a good awareness, because again, I can go back to the Stampede days. Back in about 2005, we actually explored the opportunity of pulling out of Calgary and going to the outskirts of town. More elbow room. Imagine the amounts of billions of dollars that were going to be generated by selling that land and moving out and creating something very, very big. We had all kinds of people and companies come in and give us their expertise. And at the end of the day, it was 100% do not move. Location, location, location. Yes, we were and are at the Calgary Stampede limited on our footprint. We did in the mid-2000s expand into Victoria Park. We bought up land, and with the help with the city of Calgary, we bought up land and we got more land. But we also realized that we just can't keep buying land, much the same as here with this footprint that we have here, this 15 acres. What it does is it makes us be more creative and more efficient and more looking outside the box of what can we do with this land. It is what it is, but there's so much more we can do with it if you really think about different opportunities, expos, outdoor galas, a new and improved and expanded event center. So many things that we can do. With our rodeo grounds, you know what, I'd love just to say, you know what, sorry people, we can't get any more in, we're sold out. That's the kind of experience I dream of. That's the kind of economic impact that really sets legacies on for generations. So I'm not concerned about the amount of land. I'm concerned about what we do within the boundaries of that land every day of every year. And I think we can come up with some creative programming and facilities that can accommodate that creativity.
Well said. My thoughts exactly. I echo the mayor's points that you just made about business milestones and making sure that we're headed in the same direction, check-in points perhaps, but as far as long-term certainty goes, I've always thought that's the way to go forward. How can you finance things? How can you invest into a site that you don't have long-term surety on? That makes total sense to me. And the 50-year time frame like you're talking about is what was on my mind coming into the meeting before the presentation, but I love the vision, I love the excitement, and I'd love to go forth and see this begin to manifest this into a reality to become a great, the center of Cochrane and the heartbeat of our community.
Thank you. If I can just supplement that, Chair, in terms of checks and balances that you talk about, there's also the checks and balances that are built within the organization here, that anytime that we're going to put a shovel in the ground, we have to go through a developing permit process, which basically we have to come with the idea, we have to come with the plan, we have to come with the vision that you guys will eventually approve. So there's all kinds of checks and balances that we can do, not only in terms of written, but what's already in policy here for the town.
Well, thank you for the time and the presentation, and a big supporter of what we're thinking about and talking about right now. I think this is exactly what needs to happen on that plot of land. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Nagel.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm very excited to be here having this conversation after many years of hearing about the Lions Rodeo and the potential political decisions that need to be made. So I'm very glad it's happening. I echo everything that the mayor and Councilor Wilson have said already. I've lived in Cochrane for 20 years, and as far as I'm concerned, the Lions Rodeo Weekend is Cochrane's iconic event. It is the cultural keystone of Cochrane. We do a number of great events in this community, the Canada Day thing, the light up, but what makes Cochrane special is our rodeo, because it's ours and nobody else does anything like it. And I'd like to thank all of you here and everybody who's not here who's been part of doing this rodeo for all these years, because it has been fantastic and really the heart of Cochrane's culture. So I do have some questions.
Sure.
Things like this, it's always hard not to try and ask like micromanaging questions. One of the things I like best about the Lions Club is I know we can trust your organization with this, and it wouldn't need to be micromanaged. We can just turn it over to you. But that doesn't change the fact I still have a few questions. Whenever we look at making any policy or project or deal or anything, I always think it's best to try and remove people from the equation and just think about the actual deal, because in this case, the deal is going to outlive all of us. And with any good business deal, the question that people always need to talk about is, what does dissolution look like? Has the Lions looked at, should this fail, say 35 years from now, what would you be prepared to sign on for as the out? Like what would terminate this agreement? Or have you guys not had that conversation yet?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
And there's so many things that go into that kind of a terminology in these agreements. So there's a lot of things that have to be discussed prior to and goalposts set up. So no, there's, please respect that I don't want to get into details
Sure.
of that because for the town, it's new ground that we're venturing down, and I think that we don't want to jeopardize any negotiation by anticipating what may or may not happen down the road on this. So
That's probably the absolute perfect answer. So there you go. So,
please don't confuse me with being political.
I do. It's very well done. I have one more question, a broad question like that. Has the Lions Club clearly articulated what the mission statement would be? Because in your own presentation, you mentioned like the funds could always be to just enhance the site itself, or the funds could continue to be split out across local charities, or really, if it was under the full control of the Lions Club, it could turn into anything 30 years from now. Is there a really well articulated mission statement that this is what this site is for and that's it?
Well, basically, the four guiding principles really do put the four squares to the box of what our mission statement is, and that's being multi-year around and being a gathering place for the community to come and celebrate beautification and all these sorts of things. So in terms of, we will not specifically say, okay, we're going to do X amount of dollars per year into the community cash every year. We will not say that we're going to invest X amount of dollars annually every year. Economic conditions and opportunities that arise at certain parts of the decade coming up and whatever really dictate on how monies are invested and needs of the community as well. So these are things that there's a trust element that we have to embark on. We can put all kinds of pen to paper and try and come down with that, but at the end of the day, we have 60 years of heritage and we have 60 years of history of good working relationship, and the communication between the two organizations is strong and will continue. And I know you're embarking on a major park master plan, and we want to be part of that, and we want to be in good communication as that plan moves forward, so that whatever things arise out of that master plan, if there's something that this park can do, our Lions Club can do to augment it, we're there definitely. And so in terms of to your question about X amount of dollars or a specific mission, I think the four guiding principles really do kind of encompass what we want to do down the road.
Okay. And then my last comment is just a idea that I'd like to put out into the ether. I've always wanted to see an outdoor rink at the rodeo grounds, so there can be major community hockey events in the winter. I just always thought that it would be a great idea, so please keep it in mind.
Well, today is a hell of a day to do it.
Yeah.
We could even do it tomorrow as well. We do have some climate issues that do, a hockey rink is absolutely a neat idea. There's technology out there that we can probably do something like that with. Also, ski joring. You know, it's really increasing. There's so many different, I don't want to get into all of them, but so many activities that we can engage people throughout the summer and the winter activities that have Western flair to them, that just have some good old natural Canadian instincts, and get a hockey stick and let's go cross-check somebody and have some fun.
Perfect. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Flowers, I don't know where you're going to go with that one.
Thank you for all the information you shared. The Lions Club has done amazing things for this community and many other communities. My dad was a Lions Club member in the Cheadle group. I still have his vest hanging in my closet with all his pins on it. But we had a lot of history there. It's amazing to hear your dreams and plans, and I'm glad to hear that you're including the tri-site information, because we spend hundreds of hours talking to the community about that. Boys and Girls Club definitely need new space. One you didn't mention was Seniors on the Bow. Have you talked about them?
We have been in communication with Seniors in the Bow and made them aware of this presentation and our vision, and definitely will continue to talk with the Seniors on the Bow and many other ones that unfortunately I didn't recognize tonight, but it is our communication plan to reach out to everyone and keep them abreast of what we are, and find ways that we can be inclusive and better stewards of their opportunities and their programs.
There is so much potential for that land, and I do like the idea of continuing the negotiations and making sure the governance is addressed, because that was always a big question as we worked through it all. How do you handle the governance? So I just want to say that I am in support of continuing the negotiations, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
As usual, I get the opportunity to sum it up, or try to sum it up. I'm not going to take the airtime that my colleagues have already summarized, and I think I'm in full support of it as well. My question is, in terms of the public, what would be, if the town were to go ahead with this, what would be their 5-year plan, the next 5 years? What would you hope to accomplish? Again, not holding you to it, but just an idea of what we might suspect to see.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a good question. 5-year plan, getting right out of the blocks. Certainly the beautification of the park There's going to be some work, from what I understand, on Fifth Avenue, so it's a great opportunity for when that work is done and completed that we can actually start to change that interface and that connectivity, as Johnny talked about. So that can happen immediately with the beautification of the park if we can get some financing and funding to beautify the park. Certainly, the event center needs some critical monies in terms of operational upgrades to make the event center just not only more beautiful but functional. And I think the Lions Club, if I remember them correctly saying, over the last 2 years, they've put over close to $100,000 into that venue, trying to get it upgraded and operational and functional. And so a lot of short-term beautification that needs to be needing some upgrades and that sort of thing. And we can work with the town as well on identifying some early steps. But a lot of early steps too, sir, would be on our programming, starting to establish long-term programming, starting to get our better sponsorship and get some, there's a great need and a want from our businesses in this community and surrounding community to partner with us. I'll give you an example. In 2023, the rodeo committee had $85,000 in sponsorship. Last year, 2024, they exceeded $173,000 in sponsorship, so over doubled. That shows you the energy and the support that our businesses and people want to do to this this park and to the Lions Club. So we can go out and find some good monies to generate some new improvements in the park immediately, and we would certainly have that. Johnny?
Yeah, one thing I would just add too, you know, as the planning process starts, it'll be key to have a phasing plan. You know, we can't go into this and expect that everything's going to come at once. It's about having the ability to make sure that the Lions can maintain their operation, maintain their community support throughout the process holistically. So, you know, phasing plans within those first 5 years, like John noted, maybe public infrastructure, maybe then it's a small renovation to, you know, one part or a couple parts, but always maintaining the operations so that, you know, the Lions Club never loses touch with the community that surrounds it.
Yeah, fair enough. My question again was more specific about the public and wanting to know exactly well, if the town agrees to this, and like my colleagues, I'm in support of it. The public needs to know what's going to happen or what can expect to happen on that land, to the mayor's point about being at a year-round event. So I'm just putting it out there as a thought for you. The other question I had, again, more of a comment, and John, you know, you referenced it earlier. I think one of the mistakes that I think the Calgary Stampede is struggling with and the new event center is the lack of hotels downtown. You know, if they get an international conference coming in there, like they are, people are going to be booking out here in Cochrane and Chestermere and Airdrie because there's no hotel space. And so if we're going to do something like this, you know, we should even talk about the opportunities that might come along with that, the town and the rodeo or the Lions Club in terms of that opportunity as well. But just, again, another thought, putting it out there.
Well, on that thought, sir, we found in Calgary that hotels are always the last one to the table when it comes to making the community better. We've tried for years to get a hotel put on Stampede Park.
Right.
Over 20 years. And they won't come until, okay, you got to have this built, you got to have this built. Well, that sounds, you know, they're very reluctant. They're last ones out of the block. So I understand the frustration in this community in terms of getting hotels and door spaces, but they are so vital to the future of a lot of economic activity in this town.
Exactly.
We have so much to offer from a tourism and a spectacle for people to enjoy when they come. So yeah, we'd love to work with the town and the community and seeing if we can generate more hotel space and grow that for sure. Yeah.
We turn back to the mayor for, I'm hoping, a final comment. No, it's not a good final comment.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, for the reminder to keep it brief. I have a question for administration about next steps.
Right.
Obviously, we don't make decisions here. Everybody seems to be on board and singing praises and endorsements, but Mr. Derricott, what would be a next step? Would this be on a future council agenda where we would have a direct vote, or do you have what you need tonight to carry on with the lease?
Yeah, thank you through the chair, Mr. Mayor. It would be administration's intention to have this appear on a subsequent agenda for a formal direction, although I think administration's been working closely with the Lions and understands their requests. I think that would be the next step that will help this move forward. So council and the community can expect this conversation to be ongoing and hopefully get some clarity on that direction. It will be helpful for administration, the Lions, to keep this moving forward.
Thank you for that. So maybe instead of it coming back to council with a draft partnership agreement, would it be a direct administration to enter into negotiations and then like a conversation as you outlined?
Yeah, thank you. I think the next step would be a guiding directive rather than execution of an agreement. I know that there's been ongoing discussions. I think we're probably talking about something more like a memorandum of understanding to pursue a shared outcome. At this stage, obviously a 50-year lease has a lot of work that needs to go into it, and some of that work's already been done. But in terms of getting that clarity and the certainty that I think the Lions Club is seeking, that seems like the next step to push in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That was it.
Okay. Yeah, just for those in the gallery, the committee of the whole doesn't have the authority to be able to make or pass motions. It has to wait for a town council meeting. That's what the mayor's referring to, that we can't make a decision tonight on that. Councilor Nagel.
Yeah, I think we need more than a memorandum of understanding. Can we get something that we can actually vote on and look at signing before we break for summer? So there's clarity for it before the summer and well before this year's rodeo?
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Nagel, certainly we are pursuing that and we are actively working towards an extension of the lease. I think getting some council direction in terms of the longevity and the intention around that will be really, really helpful. I would have to go back and clarify both from the Lions and from the administrative perspective as to where we are in that process. What I would say is that we're very happy to pursue clarity around the long-term outcomes of that facility. The specific execution of that agreement, I think, I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to comment specifically on a time frame around that tonight without some more work.
When would council know the answer to that, the timing? I'm really worried about heading into the summer without this locked in.
Yeah, thank you. I think that would be, I think the nature of the report that you would expect to see would be the current status and the expected process that would need to be followed to see the execution of this agreement. To be clear, I'm not saying it can't be done. I just don't want to necessarily commit to something that we wouldn't be able to meet by saying we'll have it done by X date or that type of thing. So there's, as I said, some work that still needs to be done in the background. Council can give I think we can find a way for council to give the clear direction on the outcome they expect to see happen. That part I want to be clear about. The specifics of the agreement, there may be some additional work that needs to transpire as part of that, if that makes sense.
To be honest, that does not make sense. I feel like we have 9 months before the next election, and if we're not going to be able to have an actual draft agreement in place, I want to know ahead of time so that we can start thinking about what sort of motions council needs to put together in order for that to happen.
Yeah, thank you. And again, just to go back to my first part of my previous answer was, I think that would be the intention of the next presentation from administration would be to lay out what we think that process looks like, what the associated timelines are, the current status of those negotiations, how close we are from administrative perspective on being there. I just don't have that information readily available tonight, which is why I'm not commenting.
Okay.
If I understand Councilor Nagel's wish, and I think it's the entire council, at least members that are here, their intent is to be able to have a 50-year lease within this election term so that this council can make that decision. Is that your understanding?
I absolutely understand the request or intent there. I think with the greatest of respect, it's my job to make sure that we have an appropriate agreement that protects the interests of the organization and the community. Right. And I don't want to put a time frame on something like that. Again, we've been actively working with the Lions. We understand their intentions. We want to get clarity from council on the direction. It will really help with those process. And then we want to build an agreement that's going to set all parties up for success. And we want to just make sure that we take the time to get the right agreement that lets us do that.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, I think our intent is that it's done within this council's term. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation. All those in the gallery who are here in support, thank you. We're not used to this large crowd, but we appreciate your support, and we're excited about this project going forward. So, good evening.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll take, yeah, a 5-minute recess, if that's okay. We ready to go? Call the meeting back to order. We move on to item 5A under business, the 2024 Annual People and Culture Update. So Kelly, welcome.
Thank
Kelly
you.
Dunsmore, right?
Yes, I met you in November when I first started. I was about a week into the job.
Oh.
So here I am now, actually presenting.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. I don't have quite the crowd, but I do have a few people, so that's nice.
A few
got the
diehards
important
still
people,
in the
though.
crowd here, yeah.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, and Council. Tonight I will be going over the 2024 People and Culture Year in Review, as well as providing you a glimpse into what 2025 has in store for us. This slide presents some of the demographic information about our workforce. Our metrics indicate continued growth within our organization, now totaling 257 employees, with 86% of those being full-time, 7% part-time, and 8% casual. These employees work across 3 divisions encompassing various professions with an average tenure of 7.8 years. Our average employee age is 45, and we have a 60-40 split on our male to female population. These are our recruiting stats from January to December 2024. The town of Cochrane continues to remain an employer of choice. In general, we experience very few challenges sourcing candidates, and the final selection process for applicants is very competitive. In 2024, we had 55 job requisitions with over 4,500 applicants and 82 hires. Of the 82 hires, 18 were internal and 64 were external. It is important to note that for some job requisitions, we hired multiple candidates. So for example, in 2024, we hired 33 seasonal park workers with 1 requisition. Our voluntary 2024 turnover rate was 6.2%. Our last data point from our comparable municipalities for voluntary turnover was 13.3%. And a quick Google search suggests that the average voluntary turnover rate in local governments in Canada is typically 8 to 10%. As previously discussed with Council, in 2024, we launched a performance development program aimed at creating a human-centered performance culture. The initiative aligns individual performance with our strategic goals and ensures that behaviors reflect our core values. Through this program, employees and managers work together to set goals and expectations, creating a supportive environment for success. The program has been successfully implemented for 162 employees to date and will continue into 2025. In 2024, we launched an employee recognition program resulting in 186 recognitions across 12 categories. The customer service category saw the largest increase in recognition since the Q3 reporting period, while the People Matter category received the highest number of recognitions overall. We will continue to grow our recognition program to include recognition for tenure as well into 2025. As mentioned in our 9-month update, in 2024, we conducted a new hire survey, administered 90 days post-employment to evaluate recruitment strategies, engagement, and early tenure satisfaction. From Q3 to Q4, we observed a slight increase in the reasons employees applied for and accepted positions in the town of Cochrane, specifically in career progression opportunities, compensation, and location. From an experience perspective, we saw a slight increase in Q4 from 75 to 78% of new hires likely to recommend the organization to friends and family as a great place to work. Responses to the new hire survey also show that the 2024 all new hires see themselves as engaged, as compared to the benchmark data where you see a percentage of the new hires disengaged, indifferent, or almost engaged. The full new hire survey report was attached to the agenda for you all to review. Switching gears a bit now, in 2024, we underwent an Occupational Health and Safety Certificate of Recognition, or CORE audit. It was conducted by an Alberta Municipal Health and Safety Association certified auditor. The audit included 38 employee interviews, 11 site visits, and a comprehensive review of our health and safety documentation. We are pleased to share that we have successfully passed the core audit and maintained our health and safety certificate. This accomplishment shows that our health and safety management system meets provincial standards. It will also help us create a proactive workplace culture, a plan to reduce workplace incidents, and minimize costs associated with them. In 2024, we recorded a total of 85 reported incidents in our occupational health and safety system, including 13 near-miss incidents that had the potential to cause harm but did not. Additionally, there were 16 opportunity reports where employees identified areas of improvement, 9 public incidents, 7 contractor reported incidents, and 2 lost time injuries. We also conducted 26 formal worksite inspections. These metrics going forward will be tracked annually, and so we can identify the trends and analyze those changes over time. So now we look into 2025 with human resources and occupational health and safety. The People and Culture section will undertake several significant projects, including projects linking back to Organizational Resiliency Foundation outlined in the Cochrane Strategic Plan. The work includes a total rewards review looking at compensation, benefits, flexible work options, and culture. Employee engagement survey and the launch of the exit survey. Performance development program, continuation and expansion of the program. Core audit action plan, addressing and implementing recommendations made in or discovered in the occupational health and safety audit. Official launch of our occupational health and safety app. We've already been using the app, but we're going to do that full launch so all employees are aware of how to use it and when to use it. It will provide us easy access to forms, reporting, and metrics. And then process creation and improvements, enhancing transparency and efficiency in HR and occupational health and safety processes. All that said, it's going to be a very busy year. Thank you.
I will turn to my council colleagues for any comments. We'll start with Mayor Janum.
I'll be brief.
I heard that once before.
Yeah. Famous last words. Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate the update and the survey. I just want maybe more of a comment than a question, but I think as this council entered into our term of work since 2017, I think we identified early on that we had some work to do in the culture department. And I think what I've learned, and I think what has become the norm here, which I'm happy to speak about now, is that a culture isn't just something you put attention on when it needs it. It actually needs it all the time. So I've seen the progression through these last 7 years of how our HR department has made strides in that regard. You mentioned the employee, forget the name of it, the Spotlight program, and that I see people outside my office utilizing that. It seems on occasion, but it's always a big deal. And those small things like that really contribute. And I just want to recognize how hard it is to maintain a culture in an organization that is growing, and we're adding people. You're an example of that. In the environment of a extremely fast-growing community, and the pressures that we all know that brings. So having a focus on culture and that at the same time is going to be an exercise. And I appreciate the work that you're doing in that regard, and just want to recognize that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Janum. Councillor Flowers.
Just a couple comments. Thank you for the info.
You're welcome.
You do have a busy department. I can see, it's good to see all the performance reviews that have been accomplished, because I know that's important to people in their careers. And it looks like people are very engaged. I think it was page 24 when I was reading through it. Seems that people are more engaged than they were. So lots of good information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just if I could add a couple comments of my own. One is I think the statistics on the engagement and experience results speak very well. The mayor was talking about the culture of the organization. And so, it's unfortunate that the media left and the crowd left, because Actually, these are big accomplishments for this organization, and I think that, that it's unfortunate that it doesn't get the publicity that it should. In fact, sometimes it's the other way around. And likewise with the occupational health and safety audit, right, the certificate of completion, like, that is a huge milestone for an organization, just based on my limited experience in that area. So congratulations to you and your colleagues and the organization as a whole for where it's tracking in the right direction. One comment I would make just for the public is that the annual, biannual staff satisfaction survey is just that, it's a biannual survey, is it not?
The employee engagement survey, sorry, sir, is every 3 years, so it's on
Every 3 years, okay.
Yeah, so we'll be doing it again this year as well.
Okay. Okay, great. I don't see any other questions or comments from my colleagues, so thank you for your presentation. We're going to move on to item 5B, the Cochrane, excuse me, Cochrane Community Standards Bylaw. And Jay, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors. I'm here tonight to present the proposed Community Standards Bylaw. With me is Andrew Bartle. Andrew is the driving force behind AI Agility, which is an artificial intelligence company based right here in Cochrane. Andrew and generative AI were instrumental in drafting this procedural bylaw, proposed bylaw, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a minute. In October of 2024, the provincial government provided community justice grant funding to establish a community standards bylaw. This initiative aimed to create a local framework in Cochrane for addressing minor antisocial behaviors outside of the criminal justice system. The proposed bylaw empowers the RCMP and community peace officers to address specific social disorder offenses such as public disturbances, vandalism, graffiti, fighting, aggressive panhandling, and public disorder at the municipal level. Historically, such cases fell only to the RCMP, who were limited to dealing with these offenses by criminal charges alone, leading to high costs, resource strains, and delays due to an overburdened justice system. The new proposed bylaw reduces the over-reliance on the RCMP for minor offenses. It provides an additional enforcement option to the RCMP and community peace officers, and lessens the reliance on an overburdened justice system that delays resolutions on low-risk cases. The bylaw also consolidates and repeals 3 outdated bylaws while introducing modern adaptable regulations. And namely, those bylaws are from 2007, the Nuisance and Unsightly Premise Bylaw, the 2011 Noise Control Bylaw, and the 2009 Snow Removal Bylaw. What are the benefits to the community? Key provisions address nuisances like unsightly properties, littering and graffiti, and noise control in residential and non-residential areas. A clear ticketing and penalty system simplifies enforcement. The bylaw aligns closely with the community's long-term vision, addressing priorities identified in the Envision Cochrane 2050 feedback surveys, and these include traffic safety, preserving natural areas, maintaining clean and safe public spaces, and supporting the town's small town character. Implementation steps include officer training, public awareness campaigns to educate residents about the bylaw, and regular effectiveness reviews. I'd like to bring forward an important amendment for your discussion and decision regarding section 16, which refers to noise, specifically addressing construction hours within our municipality. Over the past year, our municipal enforcement team has managed 31 construction-related files, and many of those 31 files involve multiple complaints. This has highlighted the need to review our current regulations. And after conducting thorough research comparing 8 other Alberta municipalities, we're proposing adjusted construction hours that we believe better serve our community. The proposed amendment seeks to strike a balance between supporting our construction industry while protecting residents' quality of life. The new framework would still permit construction activities for 14 hours per day, Monday through Saturday, and 11 hours on Sunday. Administration believes these hours provide ample time for construction work while addressing both residents' concerns and worker safety considerations. The recommended hours would maintain robust building activity in our community while demonstrating responsiveness to citizen feedback about those impacts. So in response, we are proposing amendments to reduce the permitted hours for construction activities on both weekdays and weekends, which are currently from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday, to a proposed 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday. This change aims to enhance community livability by minimizing noise disruptions in residential areas while preserving Cochrane's cherished small town atmosphere. To ensure this change supports both community well-being and continued development, the amendment includes provisions for flexibility. Critical infrastructure projects would be exempt, and permits for extended hours would be available for emergencies and high-priority developments through a noise exemption permit application. Now, on to Mr. Bartle and the role artificial intelligence played in this entire process. Through the provincial grant funding, we engaged an artificial intelligence consultant to draft this comprehensive new community standards bylaw. Cochrane is proud to be the first municipality in Canada that we are aware of to use generative AI in crafting a municipal bylaw from scratch, a truly groundbreaking achievement. The artificial intelligence systems utilized performed complex analysis across multiple municipalities' bylaws, identifying patterns, gaps, and best practices that might have taken a lone human resource months to compile. The bylaws development from concept to final draft took just 2.5 months, significantly faster than similar initiatives in other municipalities, which typically require around 6 to 12 months of staff time to complete. To ensure quality control, all content was reviewed and scrutinized by an actual human being. What makes this bylaw particularly innovative is how AI seamlessly integrated 3 existing bylaws covering nuisance premises, noise control, and snow removal into a single cohesive document, while at the same time simultaneously modernizing the regulations. The artificial intelligence didn't just consolidate and enhance the content by conducting sophisticated benchmarking, ensuring consistency, and identifying opportunities for improvement that traditional methods might have missed. Generative AI also helped explore the potential for future implementation of alternate justice resolutions beyond monetary fines and identified potential future efficiencies, such as enhancing accessibility through multilingual versions of the bylaw, implementing citizen-facing chatbots for simplified explanations, enabling a more efficient reporting and review process, and providing peace officers with tools for real-time incident resolution. The initiative has demonstrated how generative AI can enhance efficiency across various municipal departments while improving the quality and delivery of community service. Of interest, we have fielded multiple inquiries from municipalities across Alberta inquiring about our utilization of AI in drafting this bylaw. That concludes this presentation to the Committee of the Whole. Thank you for your time. I welcome any questions or comments you may have regarding the proposed bylaw, and Mr. Bartle is present to answer any of the questions related to the utilization of artificial intelligence.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here. I don't see any questions of my colleagues, so maybe I'll ask a couple, and maybe that'll, oh, sorry. Councillor Flowers, I should have looked more
Are you
carefully.
ignoring me?
I would never ignore.
Thank you. I don't know much about AI, but is there a way that it makes it specific to Cochrane, or is it just so general it would fit any community?
No, this bylaw is specific to Cochrane. We did look at other bylaws, similar bylaws in other communities to do some gap analysis and things like that, but it's written specific for bylaw. It's in Cochrane, and it's been reviewed by humans to make sure that it actually is. We also took a look at all the survey data for Envision 2050 to make sure it aligned with feedback from the community, make sure that that was also incorporated in the bylaw.
Was there much feedback about the noise bylaw? That's the thing I hear the most complaints about is especially downtown Cochrane. I live right in the downtown core and there's people gunning their cars all the time. And is there anything to address that?
Some of it is the hours that have changed. And there's also, I think the number one feedback was surprisingly traffic.
Was which? Sorry?
Was traffic.
Oh.
But there, no, some of the things that I understand when I talk to Jay, some of those things about noisy cars and whatnot, it's really tough to track that down and enforce unless you're right there and you have a visual. So some of the bylaw attaches some of those, some of the concerns, but it doesn't address others directly because it's too hard to enforce.
Some of the complaints I've heard is that they get a ticket, but then it's hard to enforce it or make them pay. But there has been a couple communities, I think, that have gotten some innovative ways of dealing with that. I think Red Deer was one of them. And I just wondered if there was anything new and exciting that we could put in there to help alleviate some of these problems.
So Frank and Jay have been talking about restorative justice as part of this. So that's not necessarily paying a fine. It is contributing in different ways to the community as a way to restore justice. So I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but there are different ways than actually paying a dollar fee.
I'm not sure what I'm talking about. I heard it on the radio quite a while ago, and I thought it would be neat to check it out and see what they're doing that's different and how they can hold people accountable, because it's really a problem in the downtown core. And I don't see it in the notes. It talks more about a long-term noise, but not the short-term noise. There's nothing else we can do.
And through the chair to Councillor Flowers, you're correct. The bylaw doesn't have anything specific to traffic noise itself. The bylaw does cover noise being emitted from a vehicle or a residence up to where the point of reception is and how it's measured and those types of things. To Mr. Bartle's point, the officer would have to be present at that spot with a noise measuring device and then be able to stop the person in a timely manner in order to enforce that bylaw.
So do we have those noise measuring devices available?
We do. It would just be the process of capturing the person in the act and then stopping the person before they got too far away from you to write a ticket to or try and enforce.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but it's a problem. But thanks for the info.
Sorry, I missed you. Mayor Janine.
So you missed Susan, now we all have questions. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to commend administration for utilizing this, looking into or exploring this as an avenue to, we just had an HR presentation with 257 employees, and and I'm talking about the growth pressures and the busyness of our organization, but if this could be a tool that we could utilize, and I think you've done a good job tonight in outlining the streamlining and the efficiencies of that, and then produce something obviously that is meaningful and makes a difference. I appreciated that it had combined 3 bylaws into one, and we're checking a few boxes off at the same time. So just hats off for that. The one, and it's not a question, it's more of a comment about, I was happy to see panhandling included in this. And I've had a few emails from last summer where we've had some of that happening in our community. I'm glad to see it's incorporated into this so we can get ahead of it before it becomes a problem in our community. But thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Janine. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. At the risk of belaboring the topic here, I've got 2 that I just had to ask you about, number 4.0 and 8.0 as I read through. 4.0, the nuisance and unsightly buildings and structures, the title makes sense to me, but then immediately we're talking about refrigerators and freezers being placed, it seems, outdoors on individual private property, and then goes into ways to make the appliance inoperable for child safety. It just seems incredibly bizarre to me. Is this something that we regularly have a problem with in Cochrane, or it seems like a very bizarre 4.0 seems strange to me, and just maybe if you could touch on that.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wilson, there has been instances in other communities where children have lost their lives by climbing into refrigerators and other appliances. So this is more of a safety precaution piece as a part of the bylaw itself.
Okay, thank you. And I'm reading it right, it's outdoor appliances, is that what I'm reading? Obviously,
Yeah, that's through
Okay.
the chair to Councillor Wilson, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
outdoor, on the lawn or in the backyard type of thing.
Okay, fair enough. And then the title of 8.0 meetings made no sense to me at all. I think I'm reading that it's about putting advertisements, what are they called, posters, handbills on community infrastructure like light poles. Just wondering, is that the meaning of 8.0, and why is meetings the title of that?
And through the chair to Councillor Wilson, that's a very good question as to why that is. That can definitely be addressed with a more appropriate title.
It's just a general title for a number of different things that basically means a gathering of people at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. I thought I'd ask both simply because it's AI produced, you said, and it's I guess that's a whole novel concept here, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. And we did touch on that these all get proofread after they're AI generated, and then they come to us. That's the progress.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, even today I discovered another section, another couple lines that are actually repeated in another lower part of the document. So even after having it proofread by multiple people, multiple times, there's still, even humans make errors, and that's another area that'll be corrected by us prior to this coming forward for first reading.
Interesting. Thank you for the presentation.
Just to follow up with that whole, what you're questioning about drafting and proofing and the human in the loop and stuff, that's just generally part of what's called responsible AI. So AI is great at creating those first drafts of things if it happens to be written, but you always have to have the expert who's going to review before it goes live. So one of the values that I saw out of this is it just gets you, creating that first draft's heavy work, right? And it gets you to that review cycle a lot faster, and that's where the savings have been made at the end of the day.
Thank you for the clarity. I don't mean to be critical. I'm actually just more interested in the whole process, and obviously it takes proofreading once you do the first draft, as you said, just to make sure.
And Jay, I think, would agree with me. When you're doing any kind of AI stuff, and this in particular, was really an experiment for the town. Like, let's step into it, let's try it, let's see if we get our benefits and measure at the other side, and then rinse and repeat. So I think it was successful on that, and now Jay is using ChatGPT and Claude and a whole bunch of other things that he wasn't 2.5 months ago, so.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Susan.
And just
Councilor
one more
Flowers.
thought. I don't know if it's fits here or not, but we haven't seen anything in there about backup beepers. We've had a lot of discussions over the years about backup beepers, and we did put a program in place where people could use the quieter ones, I forget what they're called, and nobody's been taking us up on it, and I just wondered if the noise has anything to do with beepers and if there's anything we could do about it.
There isn't anything directly addressing that in bylaw, so it's a good point.
And through the chair to Councillor Flowers, that's something I can take away and look into further. It's probably something under occupational health and safety regulations around the decibel and sound, but something that I will definitely take away and look into further.
I'd appreciate you having a look. It's something that there's a lot of complaints about, and it's very noisy, especially in the downtown again, and with construction too. So if there's a way that there's an alternative solution and less complaints, I think it would be helpful. So
And that's another reason around our proposal to decrease the amount of construction hours is if the hours are 7 a.m., we have people starting up their construction equipment at 6:30 to get warm and that type of thing, and starting backing things off of trucks. This would cover that, as well as we have a lot of complaints of contractors and builders working over past the 10 o'clock deadline. So this again would reduce the time at night when they'd be able to make noise, and we try and enforce that to the best of our ability.
Okay, if there's a way to slide in the alternative, it's annoying in the daytime too. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. One is I really appreciate your response about AI. And while I'm not any expert in the area, we've had a lot of experience with it in our organization, and responsible AI is the key word. It can produce great documents, but if you don't spend time, like critical time authoring it and putting a subject matter expert against it, it can be dangerous, right? My question was though, and I support the construction hours that's being proposed in terms of noise amendment. My question was around the exemption. Who and on what criteria would they use to allow for an exemption?
If there was, to the chair, if there was a situation where a contractor needed to do some construction for concrete pouring or some type of building erection that would be necessary before those hours or past those hours, sometimes there's 24-hour pours that are required that would create construction noise outside of those hours. A permit would be able to be applied for and provided to the contractor to go outside of those hours.
So I'm assuming an exception would be unusual circumstances.
To the chair, that's correct. I don't believe it would be an everyday occurrence, and outside of a regular construction, yes.
And how do you reassure the residents that isn't a violation, but rather an exception? And how are they notified, or are they notified?
To the chair, there's probably an opportunity through our Cochrane app, potentially, or something along those lines where we'd be able to provide some public notification. Again, we'd have to examine that. That's something I can take away.
Yeah.
I don't believe it would be a very common occurrence.
Okay. Yeah, it might be nothing. It might something be to do about nothing, but I just thought I'd put it out there. So just for my council colleagues, so this is heading to a first reading and a bylaw at a future meeting. When will that come back to council? Is it the next council meeting?
To the chair, dependent upon what I'm taking away tonight and bringing back, it could be as early as next week.
Okay, I think what I've heard is the backup beepers, but I'm not sure if I heard anything else that anybody had in terms of feedback. Was there anything, Jay, that we missed? Or?
To the chair, we were just discussing about the decibel range within the bylaw,
Yep.
and that would speak to Councillor Flowers' inquiry around the beeping, security beeping on the backing up of construction vehicles.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the only takeaway that I've heard my council colleagues have. So we would look forward to seeing this come back with some reference to that, one way or the other. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on. Jay, you're still with us? Doing the emergency management bylaw amendment.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors. Tonight for Committee of the Whole, I will be presenting amendments to the emergency management bylaw. Administration is seeking your input on the proposed amendments prior to bringing it forward for the first reading at the next regular council meeting. On February 28th, 2024, the Government of Alberta officially mandated the use of the Alberta Incident Management System, or acronym AIMS, as part of the Alberta Emergency Plan. This initiative establishes a standardized framework to improve integration and interoperability across Alberta's emergency management stakeholders. AIMS equips all emergency management stakeholders with a standardized understanding of organizational structures, processes, and terminology. These standards ensure coordinated efforts in preventing, mitigating, preparing for, responding to, and recovering from emergencies and disasters. To align with this provincial mandate, our municipal emergency management bylaw requires amendments to reflect the implementation of AIMS. These changes will modernize our governance structures and enhance our ability to respond effectively to emergencies. Some key proposed amendments to our current bylaw include the integration of AIMS-specific terminology to enhance consistency with provincial standards during emergency responses. Updated definitions to provide clarity and consistency with provincial and partner emergency management agencies. Defining the composition and responsibilities of key entities such as the Director of Emergency Management, the Emergency Management Agency, and the Emergency Advisory Committee. These changes assist in establishing clear lines of authority and accountability. Additionally, the removal of redundant sections to improve the clarity and readability, making the bylaw easier to understand. That concludes this presentation. Thank you for your time. I welcome any questions and comments you may have.
Looking at Councillor Flowers just to make sure I didn't miss her. Any comments, questions from my colleagues? So again, Council, just a reminder, this is going to come forward as a first reading or at a future meeting. Jay, do you know when is this going to come forward?
I believe, to the Chair, I believe it's scheduled for
Soon.
the 27th, next week.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along to item 5D. This is Parks, Culture, and Active Living Master Plan. Michelle Delorme, welcome.
All right. Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, and Council. Tonight we will be discussing the Parks, Culture, and Active Living Master Plan What We Heard report, focusing on the results from Phase 1 of our engagement efforts. This initiative is key to ensuring Cochrane's continued growth in alignment with the needs and aspirations of our residents, and we're conducting this process in phases, with Phase 1 gathering feedback from a variety of community members. The first phase of engagement was focused on listening to the community, understanding what residents value, and identifying opportunities for improvement. It aimed to assess what was working well, what's missing, and where future investments should be directed. This process involved gathering feedback on key areas such as satisfaction with existing parks and facilities, demand for new programs, and priorities for connectivity and accessibility. The insights gathered from this phase will inform the next stages of engagement, where we will refine priorities and begin exploring how to bring these ideas to life. In the coming weeks, community group interviews are scheduled to begin, providing a deeper understanding of organizational needs and challenges. Additionally, a workshop with Council will be held during Council's strategic planning session to align priorities and ensure the master plan reflects shared goals for Cochrane's future. We engage the community through several methods: pop-up events, resident surveys, an online mapping tool, and consultations with community groups. These efforts allowed us to collect over 2,800 individual pieces of feedback. This rich data will guide the development of our master plan as we identify and prioritize future investments and infrastructure. The results highlight a strong desire for expanded facilities, better connectivity, and more inclusive recreational opportunities for all. As part of the master plan engagement, specific questions around connectivity were posed to ensure that community feedback plays a key role in shaping connectivity strategy. In shaping the connectivity strategy that will emerge from this process. To gather insights, we provided a map of the community at all pop-up locations where 167 points of feedback were collected. Additionally, an online map allowed for the placement of 409 pins. The purpose of this exercise was to identify favorite trails, concerns, and areas of need of enhancement within the community. The mapping exercise provided an interactive platform for residents to express their preferences. What stood out were the favorite aspects of Cochrane's parks and trails, such as the natural beauty and the sense of safety that they provide. However, safety at crossings and pathway gaps were the primary concerns. Residents also requested improvements, including the addition of dedicated cycling lanes, better signage, and more consistent trail maintenance. These themes reflect a community eager to make outdoor spaces safer and more accessible for everyone. Residents have expressed a clear vision for a more connected Cochrane. The priorities include creating safer bike lanes and improving crossings at busy intersections, which will help integrate active transportation into daily life. There is also strong support for the regional pathway links like Calgary to Cochrane through the Glenbow Ranch, which would significantly enhance accessibility and connectivity. To ensure broad community input, we hosted 11 pop-up events across Cochrane, engaging residents where they were naturally gathering. In total, we connected with over 2,100 attendees. The purpose of these events was twofold: to increase awareness of the master plan and to gather valuable community feedback on key topics such as connectivity, programming, and the town's long-term vision. We strategically selected a mix of locations to reach diverse groups within the community. These included high-traffic public events like the farmers market and outhouse races, as well as targeted engagement sessions with key community groups such as newcomers, seniors, and families. For example, we engaged with new residents at Cochrane Newcomers, Seniors on the Boat, and families at Trunk or Treat. Additionally, we made sure to connect with committees like the Age-Friendly Steering Committee and the Parks and Recreation Committee to gain insights from the residents who are volunteering at a more strategic level within Cochrane. By hosting events in a variety of spaces, we also connected at the Spray Lakes Sawmill Center, and we also went to Cowboy Coffee. We ensured that we were trying to connect with people from all walks of life, and they had an opportunity to share their perspectives. Residents made numerous requests for diverse programs and spaces that cater to all interests and demographics. Many called for an expansion of cultural activities, including festivals, live performances, and food events. There were also strong requests for more spaces for visual and performing arts, such as amphitheaters, art galleries, and theater spaces. On the recreation side, people asked for facilities for activities such as biking, climbing, snowshoeing, and kayaking. There was also a noticeable demand for unstructured recreation spaces, areas where people can engage in casual activities like basketball, ball hockey, and skateboarding. As we look into the future, Cochrane's residents have shared a clear vision of the town's parks, culture, and active living spaces. This vision centers around accessibility and inclusivity, ensuring that parks, pathways, and public spaces are welcoming to everyone, including seniors and individuals with disabilities. There is also a strong desire for expanded sports fields and year-round facilities that can accommodate a variety of activities, from outdoor recreation to indoor sports. Furthermore, there's an emphasis on preserving Cochrane's natural beauty while providing opportunities for residents to engage in arts, culture, and community celebrations. Building community through parks and culture is a central theme in the feedback that we received. Many residents called for more family-friendly gathering spaces, areas where people of all ages can come together and connect. Ideas like outdoor amphitheaters, community gardens, multi-purpose spaces were particularly popular. These spaces are not just about recreation, they're about creating opportunities for social interaction, shared experiences, and community building events. Additionally, residents highlighted the importance of having spaces that cater to youth, offering places for socializing, art, and cultural activities. There is also a strong support for creating affordable, accessible venues for workshops, performances, and community celebrations to celebrate Cochrane's unique cultural identity. The resident survey was hosted on Let's Talk Cochrane website, and paper copies were available at the station and the ranch house. In total, we had 609 online surveys and 38 paper submissions were submitted. The resident survey provided valuable insights into the activities that Cochrane residents participated in most frequently. In terms of outdoor activities, the most popular were hiking, walking, and running on trails, with 81% of the respondents regularly engaging in these activities. Dog walking also ranked high, with 55% of residents participating in this activity, highlighting Cochrane's strong connection to nature and outdoor spaces. Other popular activities included outdoor social gatherings and cycling, indicating that residents enjoy spending time outdoors, both individually and with others. And indoors, it was attending markets, sports and recreation events were the top of activities, with a strong showing for gym and fitness training. Satisfaction levels in the resident survey revealed that Cochrane residents are largely pleased with the quality of the town's outdoor spaces. 85% of the residents reported satisfaction with the quality of the trails, and 82% were happy with the parks and their access to the Bow River corridor. These high satisfaction levels reflect the strong value that the residents place on the town's natural amenities and active living spaces. However, there are areas that need attention. Only 44% of the residents expressed satisfaction with the affordability of programs, and 45% were satisfied with cultural, arts, and heritage program opportunities. This indicates the need for more affordable and accessible and cultural and recreational programming. Additionally, there's room for improvement in indoor facilities, with many respondents noting that these spaces do not meet the needs of the growing demands of Cochrane's growing population. The survey also revealed that a significant number of residents, 64%, use parks, recreation, and cultural facilities outside of Cochrane. The main reason for this are the lack of certain facilities in town and a preference for higher quality spaces elsewhere. Specifically, 62% of the residents indicated that they seek programs or activities outside of Cochrane because they don't exist locally. Additionally, 58% of the respondents prefer the quality facilities outside of the town, while 38% mentioned that they don't have access to the facilities that they need in Cochrane. This feedback underscores the importance of addressing gaps in local facilities, and particularly in the indoor recreation, and highlights the need for Cochrane to invest in expanding and improving its offerings while meeting the growing needs of the community. Several barriers to participation emerged from the resident survey, with the most common challenges being scheduling conflicts, affordability, and limited availability of facilities. Scheduling conflicts in particular were mentioned by many residents, pointing to the need for more flexible programming that accommodates various schedules. Affordability remains a significant issue, with 30% of respondents dissatisfied with the cost of recreational programs and facilities. Another common concern is the lack of available space for certain activities, particularly indoor sports like swimming, ice skating, and team sports. In terms of future needs, residents expressed a strong desire for enhanced connectivity and trail maintenance, as well as expansion of youth and teen programs. There's also a clear demand for more cultural and recreational hubs that can provide a variety of services and activities for all ages. So we also surveyed 84 community groups, and these were diverse organizations that support recreation, culture, and outdoor activities. The community group survey revealed a variety of services and activities that are being offered to Cochrane residents through local organizations. Many of these groups provide sports leagues and youth clubs, with 39% of the organization focusing in this area. 35% of the community groups are involved in organizing cultural and community events, while 33% provide recreational programming specifically for children and youth. These organizations play a vital role in enriching the community by offering opportunities for engagement, socialization, and skill development. The growth of these groups reflects the increasing demand for recreation and cultural services in Cochrane. As the town continues to grow, these groups will be key players in ensuring that diverse needs are met and that residents have access to a wide variety of activities from sports and art and culture. So despite the positive impact that these community groups have, they are facing several challenges that hinder their ability to fully meet the needs of Cochrane residents. One of the biggest challenges is keeping user costs low. Almost half of the groups, 49%, reported that this is a top issue as they struggle to balance affordability with the cost of running programs. Access to facilities and spaces is another significant challenge, with 46% of the groups citing this as a concern. Many groups express frustration with the inadequacy of current facilities, especially as membership numbers continue to grow. This has led to a reliance on spaces outside of Cochrane, further highlighting the need for new and improved facilities within the town. Other challenges included volunteer shortages and increasing costs for running the programs, which have provided additional strain for these groups. As part of the community group survey, we also gathered a number of big ideas for how Cochrane can better support its local organization and enhance recreational and cultural opportunities for residents. A prominent idea that emerged was the need for a new recreation and sports facilities, such as indoor rinks and turf fields, to better accommodate growing demand. Many groups also proposed the development of an art and culture hub that could include performance spaces, creative studios, and a dedicated space for cultural events and community programs. Another common suggestion was to expand the and interconnect the town's trail and pathway system, making it easier and more affordable and inclusive to access facilities, ensuring that all residents, regardless of their income, can participate in recreational activities. So as I wrap up the presentation, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who participated in phase 1 of the Parks, Culture, and Active Living Master Plan. A special thank you to the internal administrative team and the consultants who dedicated countless hours to ensure this engagement was a success. I also want to acknowledge the enthusiasm of the residents, community groups, and event hosts whose contributions have provided invaluable insights. Their input has given us a deeper understanding of the needs, preferences, and aspirations of Cochrane's community. As we move into phase 2, we are eagerly anticipating, hopefully the same type of engagement, and we are excited to get started on that. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. That was a great presentation, an exciting report. Turn to my colleagues. Councillor Flowers.
Just a comment that much of what you said aligns with things we've already talked about, pressing needs, and there's a lot to be done. Just wondering, in stage 2, then you get into more details about what people are looking for?
Through the chair to Councillor Flowers, in stage 2, we're going to be starting to really dive into the prioritization and the future visioning of all of these spaces. So now we understand what people are needing and the challenges that they're having and where they would like to spend their time, but we'll be able to start diving into the prioritization of how we should be laying out the master plan and the next 10 years in these spaces.
The affordability is a tricky one because things are costing so much. Do you educate people about the Connect card through FCSS as you're going through this?
It is definitely come up in conversation in the past, but it's definitely something that we need to be digging deeper into on how we can be supporting other community groups to understand more about that program.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Jadon.
Yeah, thank you. Very informative presentation. A couple questions, maybe comments first. I appreciated the number of, you call them pop-ups, like engagements. I really like that we're going to where people are. And I think the amount of responses that we've seen in this survey kind of show that that's a good tactic. So well done there. I couldn't help but notice that many of the initiatives that, and not all, I don't want to say all, but there were a number of things in the survey that people were suggesting that we do that we're already doing. And I'm wondering if there's a way to fit into your process that we can inform, or maybe you're doing this already. When somebody brings up, like, why don't you pave the ranch trail? I'm just using an example that's already out there and we've already had the controversy about, but something like that. Is there a way that we can utilize this as more of an inform as well as engage?
Through the chair to the mayor. Yeah, that is the initial plan, is as we're kind of working through what our next community engagement looks like. My goal would be to make sure that the teams that are out in the community have like almost cue cards so that they're aware of some of these things. And we're definitely seeing some themes where maybe people are just not aware that services are happening or there's certain types of programs. So we would aim to also engage and inform.
Yeah, thank you. I love that because, well, you have someone's attention. You have a little bit of opportunity to provide some information about what we're up to. So I appreciate that. I see, and I actually have, I think you guys have done a really good job of making people aware and groups aware of the master plan process. I hear about it all the time. I mean, I think the Lions even mentioned it this afternoon. So I think that's being very well done. Do you have a plan on how to keep people's attention? I think, you know, we received some feedback on transit that we were over surveying or asking too many questions. And again, I think we need to ask what we need to ask, but there's a balance of dropping people because their attention span is dwindling because we're over engaging. Is there, what's next steps and how do we keep people at the table?
That's an excellent question. So part of the strategy for the next phase is we're doing the community group interviews. So it's going to be a lot more intimate. And we're also creating a focus group that's going to be very focused on connectivity. And then we're also going to be starting to engage CPC, Parks and Recreation Committee, and doing more intentional engagement. But also during those engagements, asking people to kind of spread the word that the survey is coming. And so I think that that is one of the ways that we saw a lot of success in this first round of engagement, was we did a lot of talking up front before the survey even showed up. And we got people really excited about it. And we really helped people understand why we were doing it and why it's important. But we were spending those times in those intimate kind of areas. And those people were going out and being advocates for us. So that's kind of the same strategy that we're going to be using for phase 2.
Awesome. Love that. I think I've been using this as a kind of a holding space. We get multiple meetings of groups wanting everything. We're all aware of that. And this has been a really good place to say, hey, well, we're doing this master plan. There's going to come a day when we're going to have to action the plan. So I look forward to how that all unfolds. TBD. But thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 comments and then a question, Michelle. One is I, like the mayor, I like the breadth of engagement, but I also like the note that in the document it says, these findings are not representative of all the residents of Cochrane. However, they do provide insight into the perspectives of the individuals responding. And so, yeah, I think this is a huge list of things that people want. And to the mayor's point, you know, then prioritizing those and playing those that would be appropriate. Secondly, I like the comments about environmental stewardship on pages 11, 13, 17, and 34. Just putting in a plug. But it's not lost on me about the trail connection in our next agenda item, right? In terms of being able to move that forward. And so I think that's important. I guess the question I had for you, and maybe this is what I missed at the beginning of the presentation, is what are the timelines for phases 2 and 3?
To the chair, so phase 2, so the engagement with the community groups is starting next week.
Right.
Then we'll be doing a council workshop with you at the strategic planning week. And then the goal would be to have phase 2 of the survey start in mid-May. And so the third round of engagement is actually just presenting a drafted master plan to the community and making sure that we're kind of doing a pulse check that we've heard the community correctly.
Okay, so that'll be May, end of May, or
yeah,
sometime May? Perfect.
The goal would be to make sure that we're also at the trade show at the beginning of May for the engagement. So
Excellent.
Kind of like end of April, mid-April to right up into May.
Yeah, great engagement tool. Not seeing any other questions or comments from my colleagues. Just thank you on behalf of council for this, and we'll move on to our final agenda item, the trail MOU and active transportation fund application. Again, as I suggested earlier, or suggested a minute ago, this report and that are not lost on me in terms of their importance. So,
thank you. So I'm happy to be here again. Tonight, I am going to be providing a bit of an update on the trail project, specifically regarding the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU number 2, and our Active Transportation Fund, so ATF, application. The trail project, led by the Rotary Club of Cochrane in partnership with the Town of Cochrane and the Ministry of Forestry and Parks in the City of Calgary, is an initiative aimed at creating a continuous pedestrian corridor from Calgary to Canmore, seamlessly integrating into the Trans-Canada Trail Network. A key milestone for this project was the approval of the trail plan on July 8th, 2024, which provided the framework for trail alignment, infrastructure priorities, and long-term stewardship. This approval set the stage for the next phase of implementation, including the formalization of MOU number 2, which outlines jurisdictional roles and responsibilities, maintenance, commitments, and the governance structure needed to advance the project. Council approval for MOU number 2 will be sought on February 10th to solidify these partnerships and unlock future funding opportunities. Another critical step is the Active Transportation Fund, ATF application. This $400 million federal program is designed to support infrastructure for walking, cycling, and mobility aids, aligning perfectly with the goals of the trail project. Our application will seek funding to cover up to 60% of the costs for stage 1, which includes the pedestrian bridge over the Bow River, linking Calgary to Cochrane. Securing ATF funding will help offset the $29.6 million cost of stage 1 and position us for additional provincial and philanthropic contributions. Looking ahead, we will bring formal recommendations to Council on February 10th, seeking approval for MOU number 2 and the submission of the ATF application ahead of the February 26th deadline. These steps are crucial in moving this transformative project forward, ensuring regional connectivity, sustainable recreation, and a long-term active transportation solution for our residents and visitors. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. I think we're all excited about this project. Councillor Flowers, did you want to go first?
I just am excited to get those federal dollars. I think that's going to go a long ways, and once you get into that, it can be a lot of money. So I'm excited to move forward with it, and thanks to all those volunteers that have stuck with the long-term project.
Yes.
Mayor Janelle.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, everyone's been a big supporter of the project, but so this is really, and I think you just outlined it, I just want to maybe put it in Reader's Digest form. This is a significant milestone. This is where we as an organization sign off that, yes, we want to see this happen, and we're committed to everything that that our part in it, I guess, is the way to say it. So I just want to make sure everybody at the table today understands that this is, I mean, we're not voting today, obviously, but this will be coming on a future council meeting so that we can get in on that federal grant funding that you're talking about, Susan, and really, this is our chance to say yes, right? We've been supporting, but now we can put ink to paper and sign off on it. Is that?
It's a perfect summary, Mayor.
Well, thank you. I'll stop talking.
I would have said Coles notes, but. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Broad view logistical question about if we were to be successful with this ATF grant, it would be a significant portion. I think I heard 60% towards the 30 million stage 1. And I believe I heard in there the pedestrian bridge would be part of that stage 1. Could you just broad strokes outline what else is contained in stage 1 and how far we are away from, you know, given if we were to achieve the grant, what the next steps would kind of look like for people? How would this proceed along?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wilson. So the 29, I just lost the number, 29.6 million is for the bridge itself. We do have this project also through the Canada Transit Fund application as well. And so we're making sure that we are applying in a few different spaces so that we can expand that scope. So this application is specifically for the bridge. But the scope of it would be connecting to South Bow, and we are working with the developers there on what that development of that park space would look like. and how they can support in that development on the Cochrane side. And then the Ministry of Forestry and Parks would be taking care of the Glenbow Ranch side.
Excellent, thank you. And then just out of general curiosity, the part we don't control, which is the other side to Calgary connection, how are things looking on that side? I haven't heard anything in a while there.
To be honest, we've been very focused on this conversation specifically, so I don't have an update yet, but I can definitely make sure I bring one back.
Okay, thank you, appreciate the information.
Yeah, I had a comment and a question. So for the mayor's summary is correct. For me, this was just literally that the rubber hits the road, or in this case, the trail. And I hope that we all recognize that in terms of being able to move forward. I had two questions, though, sorry. One was, Councillor Wilson was talking about that active transportation fund. Do you have a sense of what the probability of success is for that?
To the chair, I believe that we will, we've got good success. That was the same funding that we received for the Glenbow Pathway project.
Right.
So all of this project aligns perfectly, and the trail plan outlines exactly what we need to be doing. So we're in a very good position for this application. I would love to put a percentage to it, but I won't.
Okay.
I want to say it's good, but we have all of the things in place that we really need to in order to put forward a strong application.
And when would that decision be made?
The deadline is February 26th for the federal deadline.
That's the application, or is that the announcement date?
That's the application deadline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you don't know when it's being announced?
They haven't released an announcement date, no.
Okay, because I'm just thinking the mayor's going to be in Ottawa in June. And I'm just wondering if there's any political pressure or opportunity we might be able to put in terms of being able to assist this. Just putting out there as a thought. Mike, you smile, I said.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Councilor Reid. I appreciate the thought on that. Typically with a grant program that is already developed like this, it is in the administrative process now, so
Okay.
political activities are typically not super effective at this stage. However, I don't think there's any problem without raising this profile, and I know that the group has interacted with Mr. Richards, our MP, regularly, and certainly aware of that project and this upcoming application. So it is a part of the process.
Okay, and then one other question. What is the ongoing liability for this trail? Is like who are we responsible for a section and other people are responsible for a section, and then liability for whatever our section is ours? Is that how this goes down?
To the chair, yes, that's what the MOU would be outlining, is the responsibility. The bridge is really the piece that there's the specific MOU because it crosses the river to lands on both sides. But that's all outlined in the MOU.
Okay, great.
And to be clear, the town has indicated at this point, and that MOU does identify the town as taking liability for the bridge going forward, both in terms of maintenance and ownership.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions from my colleagues, again, thank you. This is an exciting project. I can't wait for this to come back and personally and be supportive of it. So, Seeing no other business of council, I'll consider this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.